are talking Tour of Duty Season 1, Episode 15, named Soldiers. This one is directed by Bill L. Norton. And this one is kind of a, tells a story more outside of the kind of the front line. So we have Purcell gets basically a message that his father is potentially critically ill in hospital, and he goes off to Honolulu to try and kind of like obviously see his father, and two of his kind of like his soldier friends decide that they're going to kind of follow him and to see if he's okay. Taylor and Ruiz. When they're there, they are encountering people for the first time, really American people outside of their platoon and such, and they're seeing how the attitudes maybe have changed. And then we've also got the storyline here where Purcell is trying to connect with his estranged father, and his father has this kind of like this young new wife, and he's kind of like at odds with him, and it kind of is a little bit of a pause button on the kind of the regular kind of the action that we'll see in the kind of the jungles in the majority of this kind of series. So what do we think about this particular episode? It was a nice change of pace, first of all. And I feel that this is kind of like, it looks at the kind of the world at large a little more. And I always think when you kind of see this type of film and how soldiers were treated when you compare them to obviously soldiers coming out of World War II. I always think, man, what would they be like in this day and age? Because obviously with the internet and the PC crazy kind of people that we have now. I mean, this was obviously decades ago now, and I think, man, it was bad then. I can only imagine what it's kind of like now. It also gave a real spotlight, I feel, to Purcell, giving him some kind of like a lot more fleshed out of a character, because you kind of get to know his backstory a little more, and it's nice to see the kind of the bond with it, with the kind of the soldiers outside of obviously just kind of a more kind of like hostile setting. You've got a couple of kind of recognisable guest stars here. Robert Fuller, you've got Olivia Deabo, David Allen Greer, and then we had this kind of like this B storyline with basically them visiting kind of veterans in kind of hospital and stuff, and them realising the kind of the after effects of war and people who have gone on to more of a kind of an anti-war stance, and the kind of the ramifications that obviously being in a war and being kind of wounded and sometimes disabled, because of it, and the more long-lasting effects of what it might mean. And obviously we have this one sort of character at this hospital who is obviously greatly kind of traumatised, and there's a kind of a little bit of a dialogue about how people are not understanding what he's going through, and it's down to our main sort of characters to really kind of talk him round and kind of connect with him in a way that maybe other people can't. So that was quite good, because it reminds me a lot of like Born on the 4th of July, that sort of thing. It has that kind of feel to it, this episode. Obviously, before Born on the 4th of July actually did this kind of this story. This one isn't going to be for it, because it's very much different from a lot of the kind of the other episodes, but I feel that it was a welcome change of pace. I don't feel the story quite meshes together in a particularly kind of a good narrative sense. I feel this particular episode has a lot of good parts, but I do not feel it's a particularly good story upon itself, because there's not really any real through storyline. So I feel this is one that is going to reward fans with a bit of character work, but I feel if you're coming into this as the first episode you've watched, there's not much in regards to narrative structure outside of a few kind of vignettes of different kind of situations what these guys are kind of facing. So I don't think it's a particularly good episode in that respect, but I feel this is one that kind of will reward fans who want a bit more of a character study on the kind of like the how the Vietnam War affects people outside on the front line, and kind of how that impacts those who are obviously there. So it's pretty interesting. Certainly maybe not the kind of the most exciting of episodes, but a good character piece. I'll give this one a 7 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.